When I walked into Marcus Sterling's office that Tuesday morning with my resignation letter, he actually laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a full-blown, head-thrown-back laugh that echoed through his glass-walled corner office. "Come on, Rachel," he said, wiping tears from his eyes. "We both know you're not going anywhere." But as his eyes scanned the contents of my carefully crafted letter, that smug smile melted off his face like ice cream in July. What I had written would change everything and destroy the career he'd built on stolen ideas and broken promises. Before we dive into this absolutely explosive story of workplace justice and sweet revenge, make sure you smash that like button if you've ever felt undervalued at work. Drop a comment telling us which city you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button because this story will show you exactly how to handle a toxic boss who thinks they own you. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this unfolds. The conference room was packed with executives, all eyes focused on the presentation screen where Marcus Sterling stood in his perfectly pressed Armani suit, clicking through slides with the confidence of a man who owned the world. "As you can see," he said, his voice carrying that practiced authority that had earned him 3 promotions in 5 years, "our new campaign strategy will revolutionize how we approach the 25 to 34 demographic. The authentic moments concept taps into genuine emotional triggers that traditional advertising simply can't reach." I sat in the back row, my stomach churning as I watched him present my campaign strategy to the board of directors. Every slide, every insight, every carefully crafted emotional hook, I had created all of it during countless late nights and weekend sessions over the past 4 months. "Marcus, this is brilliant," gushed Sandra Chen, our VP of Creative Development. "The consumer psychology research alone must have taken months to compile." "It did," Marcus replied smoothly, not even glancing in my direction. "I've been working on this concept since January, really diving deep into what makes people connect with brands on an emotional level. Since January. I had pitched this exact concept to him in February, complete with the research Sandra was now praising. He'd dismissed it then, telling me it was too complicated and that I needed to think more strategically. "The ROI projections are exceptional," added James Morrison, our CEO. "Marcus, I want you to lead the implementation of this campaign personally. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for." "I'd be honored, James. Rachel Miller, one of our junior strategists, can assist with the execution details." Junior strategist. I'd been with Sterling and Associates for 3 years, had generated over $2 million in new business, and had just watched the campaign that would define my career get credited to the man who'd stolen it. Before we continue, if you're already feeling frustrated on my behalf, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like this need to be told, and I need your support to keep sharing them. Now, let's see how much worse this gets before it gets better. The meeting ended with Marcus basking in congratulations and backpats from colleagues who had no idea they were celebrating plagiarism. As the room emptied, I remained in my seat, paralyzed by the magnitude of what had just happened. "Rachel." Marcus appeared beside me, straightening his Italian leather watch. "Good meeting, wasn't it? I'll need you to start preparing the implementation timeline. I'm thinking we launch the first phase by—" That was my campaign. The words came out quieter than I'd intended, but they stopped him mid-sentence. "Excuse me?" I stood up, meeting his gray eyes directly. "The Authentic Moments campaign. Every slide in that presentation came from the strategy I pitched to you 6 weeks ago." Marcus's expression shifted subtly, the friendly mask slipping just enough to reveal something colder underneath. "Rachel, I think you're confused. I've been developing this concept for months. You may have contributed some research, but I have the original documents, time-stamped emails, my browser history showing the consumer psychology studies I researched." My voice was getting stronger now, fueled by 3 years of swallowed frustrations. "I even have the napkin sketches from when I first conceived the emotional trigger framework." For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Worry, maybe. But it was quickly replaced by that patronizing smile I'd grown to hate. Rachel, I understand you're ambitious, but this kind of accusation is dangerous territory. Are you really suggesting I would steal ideas from a junior team member? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating a fact. Marcus moved closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Let me give you some advice. In this business, ideas evolve through collaboration. What you think is theft is actually how the creative process works. Senior strategists take concepts from various sources and develop them into viable campaigns. That's what leadership means. So you admit you took my concept? I admit that I developed a campaign using input from my entire team, including you. If you can't handle how the corporate world works, maybe you're not cut out for this level of responsibility. The condescension in his voice was so thick I could practically taste it. This was the man I'd respected for 3 years, whose approval I desperately sought, whose praise had meant everything to my sense of professional worth. Think carefully before you make any rash decisions, he continued, checking his Rolex. Your performance review is coming up. It would be unfortunate if your recent attitude problems became a focus of discussion. And there it was, the threat wrapped in corporate speak, delivered with a smile that never reached his eyes. I need to get back to work, I said, gathering my materials with hands that shook slightly. Good choice. Oh, and Rachel? I'll need that implementation timeline by Friday. Don't disappoint me. That night, I sat in my apartment with a bottle of wine and my laptop, staring at a document that could either save my career or destroy it. I'd spent 4 hours compiling evidence, original emails, research documents, time-stamped files, even photos of my handwritten notes from the coffee shop where I'd first outlined the campaign strategy. The evidence was overwhelming. Any reasonable person would see that Marcus had stolen my work and presented it as his own. But Marcus wasn't just anyone. He was the golden boy of Sterling and Associates, the youngest senior partner in company history and James Morrison's personal protege. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Sarah. How did the big presentation go? I stared at the message, unsure how to respond. How did you explain that your career's defining moment had been hijacked by the person you trusted most? Instead of texting back, I called her. Rachel, I've been waiting to hear about the campaign presentation. Did Marcus love it? Please tell me you're finally getting that promotion you deserve. Sarah, I said, my voice breaking slightly. He stole it. What do you mean he stole it? The presentation today. Marcus presented my entire campaign as his own work. Every slide, every insight, every strategy I developed over 4 months. He took credit for all of it. The silence on the other end stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. Rachel, are you absolutely sure? Maybe there was some miscommunication about... I'm sure. I pulled up the evidence files on my screen. I have documentation proving every element of that campaign originated from me. Marcus knew exactly what he was doing. What are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? What could I do? Go to HR with my evidence and hope they'd take my word over their star performers? File a formal complaint and risk being labeled a troublemaker? Keep quiet and watch my career-defining work boost someone else to the next level? I don't know, I admitted, but I can't keep working for someone who would steal my ideas and then threaten my job when I called him out on it. Threaten your job? I told her about Marcus's veiled warning about my performance review, his suggestion that I wasn't cut out for this level of responsibility. That's not just theft, Rachel. That's workplace intimidation. You have to report this. After we hung up, I spent another 2 hours researching Sterling and Associates' employee handbook, their intellectual property policies, and their procedures for reporting workplace misconduct. Everything looked good on paper. Clear processes, protections for whistleblowers, commitments to ethical behavior. But I also knew the reality. Marcus was being groomed for a vice presidency. His campaigns, including mine apparently, had generated millions in revenue. He played golf with James Morrison every Saturday morning. I was a junior strategist who'd been passed over for promotion twice, whose biggest previous campaign had been for a local restaurant chain. The math wasn't complicated. If you're getting angry on my behalf right now, I need you to channel that energy into hitting that like button and subscribing to this channel. We're just getting to the good part, and you won't believe what I decided to do next. Drop a justice in the comments if you think toxic bosses deserve what's coming to them. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I spent the hours until dawn crafting 2 documents: a formal complaint to HR detailing Marcus's theft of my intellectual property, and something else entirely. The HR complaint was thorough, professional, and backed by irrefutable evidence. It would force an investigation, create a paper trail, and potentially result in disciplinary action against Marcus. The other document was my resignation letter. But not just any resignation letter. This one was a masterpiece of strategic warfare disguised as professional courtesy. I'd learned a few things during my 3 years at Sterling and Associates. I knew which clients were unhappy with Marcus's management style. I knew about the budget overruns he'd been hiding from senior management. I knew about his habit of taking credit for other people's work because I'd finally started paying attention to patterns I'd previously ignored. Most importantly, I knew something Marcus didn't think I knew. But before I could execute my plan, I had to get through the rest of the week playing the role of the loyal junior strategist who was grateful for the opportunity to assist with the implementation of his brilliant campaign. Friday morning arrived with Marcus in an exceptionally good mood. Word had spread about his presentation success, and several department heads had already approached him about collaborating on future projects. "Rachel," he called out as I passed his office. "Perfect timing. I need you to prepare a client presentation for the Authentic Moments campaign. Davidson Industries wants to see how we'd adapt the strategy for their product line." Davidson Industries, one of our biggest potential clients, worth at least $5 million annually if we landed their account. "Of course," I said, stepping into his office. "When do you need it?" "Monday morning. I know it's a tight timeline, but I have confidence in your ability to execute the details." He was practically glowing with self-satisfaction. This could be the account that puts us both on the map. Both of us. Even now, he was pretending this was a collaborative effort. "Actually, Marcus, I have something for you." I pulled the resignation letter from my folder, noting how his eyebrows raised slightly in surprise. "What's this?" "My resignation. I'll be leaving Sterling and Associates at the end of next week." For a moment, he just stared at the envelope. Then he started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but a full-blown, head-thrown-back laugh that echoed through his glass-walled office. "Come on, Rachel," he said, wiping tears from his eyes. "We both know you're not going anywhere. You love this job too much to leave, and frankly, where else are you going to find an opportunity like this?" "I'm completely serious." "Right." He tossed the envelope onto his desk without opening it. "Look, I get it. You're frustrated about the campaign credit situation, but that's just business. You'll understand when you have more experience. Read the letter, Marcus." Something in my tone must have finally penetrated his arrogance because his smile faltered slightly. He picked up the envelope, tore it open, and began reading. I watched his face change as his eyes moved down the page. The confident smile faded first, replaced by confusion, then concern, then something approaching panic. "You can't be serious," he whispered. Every word. "Rachel, you don't understand what you're doing. This would destroy your career?" "Yes, I'm aware." The letter wasn't long, but it was comprehensive. I'd structured it like the strategic documents I'd been writing for 3 years, clear, factual, and devastating in its implications. "Dear Mr. Morrison, please accept this letter as my formal resignation from Sterling and Associates, effective 2 weeks from today's date. During my 3 years with the company, I've had the privilege of working on numerous successful campaigns and contributing to our firm's reputation for innovative strategic thinking. However, recent events have made it impossible for me to continue in my current role with integrity. The Authentic Moments campaign presented to the board this week was developed entirely by me over a 4-month period beginning in February. I have extensive documentation proving the origination of every strategic element, research component, and creative insight included in that presentation. This documentation includes time-stamped files, email communications, research browser history, and handwritten notes from the campaign's development process. This is not an isolated incident. Over the past 18 months, I have identified a pattern of intellectual property theft affecting multiple junior staff members. I have documented evidence of at least 6 other instances where original work was appropriated without credit or compensation. Additionally, I must note several financial irregularities that may warrant investigation. The Meridian Core campaign exceeded budget by 40% due to unauthorized expenses. The Henderson Group project timeline was manipulated to hide delivery delays. Client billing discrepancies on 3 major accounts suggest possible overcharging. I am submitting copies of all supporting documentation to the appropriate regulatory bodies, professional associations, and industry publications. I believe transparency in these matters serves the best interests of both our profession and our clients. I have accepted a position as Senior Strategy Director at Morrison & Blake Communications, where I will be leading their new Authentic Marketing division. My first client presentation will be on Monday. Respectfully, Rachel Miller. P.S. Marcus, since I know you'll read this first, you might want to check your email. I've sent detailed documentation of everything mentioned above to James Morrison, Sandra Chen, and the partners. I've also shared the evidence with Davidson Industries, who were quite interested to learn about the true origin of the campaign they were about to purchase. Oh my goodness, did you see that power move? If you're living for this level of strategic revenge, you need to hit that subscribe button right now. This is the kind of workplace justice we all dream about. Drop a genius in the comments if you think Rachel just played the perfect hand. The silence in Marcus's office was deafening. He'd gone completely pale, his hands shaking as he held the letter. You sent this to Morrison? And the partners, and Davidson Industries, and the State Advertising Ethics Board. I stood up, smoothing down my skirt. Oh, and I may have mentioned it to a few industry journalists who are always looking for stories about intellectual property theft in creative agencies. Rachel, please, we can work this out. If it's about credit for the campaign, I can make sure you're properly recognized. Maybe even a promotion. A promotion? I almost laughed. Marcus, you threatened my job yesterday for having the audacity to point out that you stole my work. Now you want to negotiate? I never threatened your job. That was just, I recorded our conversation. I pulled out my phone, showing him the voice memo app. Amazing what these little devices can capture these days. His face went from pale to green. You recorded me? I recorded a workplace conversation where my supervisor made veiled threats about my performance review after I reported intellectual property theft. Perfectly legal in this state. Marcus sank into his chair, the fight going out of him completely. What do you want? Nothing from you. I already got what I wanted. Which is my dignity back and a fresh start at a company that values original thinking over office politics. I headed toward the door, then paused. Oh, one more thing. You might want to call Davidson Industries before they call you. I heard they're considering taking their business to Morrison & Blake instead. Something about wanting to work with the actual creator of the campaign they were interested in. You can't do this to me, Rachel. I have a mortgage, a reputation. You should have thought about that before you stole my work and then tried to intimidate me into silence. As I walked out of his office for the last time, I could hear him frantically dialing his phone, probably trying to reach James Morrison before the partners' meeting that was scheduled to start in 30 minutes. The next week passed in a blur of exit interviews, documentation transfers, and increasingly frantic attempts by various Sterling and Associates executives to convince me to reconsider my resignation. Sandra Chen tried the friendly approach, inviting me to lunch and suggesting that misunderstandings could be resolved with better communication. James Morrison himself called me at home, offering a significant raise and immediate promotion to senior strategist if I would consider staying to help resolve this unfortunate situation. Even the partners got involved, with Margaret Sterling herself stopping by my desk to discuss mutually beneficial solutions to workplace conflicts. But it was too late. The damage was done, and more importantly, I'd already signed my contract with Morrison and Blake Communications. My last day at Sterling and Associates was surreal. Marcus had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation, which was corporate speak for suspended while we figure out how to fire him without admitting liability. The Authentic Moments campaign had been pulled from all client presentations. Davidson Industries had indeed moved their business to Morrison and Blake, specifically requesting to work with me on their new campaign. 3 other junior staff members had come forward with evidence of their own work being appropriated, creating a pattern of intellectual property theft that the company could no longer ignore. "I can't believe you actually did it," whispered Jenny Martinez, a junior copywriter who'd been one of Marcus's other victims. "I mean, I always suspected he was taking credit for other people's ideas, but I never thought anyone would actually call him out on it." "Why not?" "Because he's Marcus Sterling. He's untouchable." "No one's untouchable, Jenny. They just want you to think they are." If you're getting goosebumps from this level of workplace justice, make sure you're subscribed because this story gets even better. We're about to see the long-term consequences of Rachel's strategic takedown. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're loving this revenge story. 6 months later, I was settling into my corner office at Morrison and Blake Communications when I received an unexpected call. "Rachel? This is Sandra Chen from Sterling and Associates. I hope you're doing well." "Hello, Sandra. I'm doing very well, thank you. How can I help you?" "Well, I'll cut straight to the point. We have a situation here, and I think you might be interested in hearing about an opportunity." I leaned back in my leather chair, looking out at the city skyline through my floor-to-ceiling windows. "What kind of opportunity?" "The Senior Vice President of Strategic Development position. It would involve overseeing all campaign development, managing a team of 12 strategists, and reporting directly to James Morrison." The position Marcus had been gunning for, the one he'd stolen my work to achieve. "That's very flattering, Sandra, but I'm quite happy where I am. The salary would be $180,000, plus bonuses and stock options, full creative control over campaign development, your own department budget." It was a significant offer, nearly double what I'd been making as a junior strategist. But more than the money, it was vindication. Complete, total vindication. "What happened to Marcus?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Marcus is no longer with the company. After the investigation concluded, we discovered the intellectual property issues were more extensive than initially reported. He was terminated for cause." "I see. Rachel, I know there was some unpleasantness before you left, but Sterling and Associates values talent and integrity. We made mistakes in how we handled the situation, and we'd like the opportunity to make things right by offering me the position that should have been mine all along. By offering you the position you've clearly earned through your talent and professionalism." I considered the offer seriously. It was everything I'd thought I wanted when I was grinding away as a junior strategist, desperately seeking recognition and advancement. But something had changed during my months at Morrison and Blake. I'd discovered what it felt like to work at a company where ideas were valued regardless of who generated them, where credit was given fairly, and where junior staff weren't treated as expendable resources to be exploited. "Sandra, I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to pass." "May I ask why?" "Is it the salary? We could negotiate." "It's not about money. It's about culture. Sterling and Associates had 3 years to recognize my value and chose not to. Morrison and Blake recognized it immediately and gave me the resources to thrive." "I understand, but Rachel, the door is always open if you change your mind." After we hung up, I sat in my office reflecting on how much had changed. At Sterling and Associates, I'd been fighting for scraps of recognition, grateful for any acknowledgement of my contributions. At Morrison and Blake, I was leading strategy sessions with Fortune 500 companies and mentoring junior staff members who reminded me of my former self. The Authentic Moments campaign I'd developed had won 3 industry awards under my name. The clients I'd brought over from Sterling and Associates had generated over $8 million in new business. Most importantly, I'd built a team culture where ideas were shared freely because everyone knew they'd receive proper credit. The real test came 8 months later at the annual industry conference. These events were networking gold mines, where agencies competed for attention and talent, showcasing their best work and trying to poach employees from competitors. I was presenting a panel on ethical innovation in strategic marketing when I spotted a familiar face in the audience. Marcus Sterling sat in the back row, looking significantly less polished than I remembered. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his suit was off the rack rather than designer, and he had the hollow-eyed look of someone who'd been fighting an uphill battle for months. After my presentation, he approached me during the networking break. "Rachel, great presentation." "Marcus, I didn't expect to see you here." "Yeah, well, I'm doing some freelance consulting now, building up a new client base." The subtext was clear. He'd been blacklisted by most major agencies after word spread about the intellectual property theft. In an industry built on trust and creative integrity, his reputation was toxic. "How's that going for you?" "It's challenging, the market is competitive, and some people hold grudges." I sipped my wine, studying this man who'd once held my career in his hands. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like humility. "Rachel, I owe you an apology. What I did was wrong, and I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know that I recognize how badly I handled things." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've had a lot of time to think about my choices, and I realize I destroyed something good because I was too proud to share credit. I hurt your career, betrayed your trust, and ultimately destroyed my own future in the process." I considered his words carefully. There was no satisfaction in seeing him struggling, but there was a certain justice to it. "Marcus, I appreciate the apology, but you didn't just hurt my career, you built yours on stolen work from multiple people. The consequences you're facing aren't because people hold grudges. They're because the industry can't trust someone who steals ideas and then tries to intimidate people into silence." "I know, I thought I could control the narrative. Make it seem like a misunderstanding." "There was no misunderstanding. You stole my work, presented it as your own, and then threatened my job when I called you out. That's not a communication problem. That's a character problem." Marcus nodded slowly, accepting the harsh truth of my words. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "you deserved credit for that campaign from the beginning. It was brilliant work, and I know that doesn't mean much coming from me. But I wanted you to know. Thank you for saying that." "Are you happy at Morrison & Blake?" "Very. They value original thinking and treat people with respect. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you're not spending half your energy protecting your ideas from being stolen." Marcus winced at the dig, but didn't argue. "I'm glad things worked out for you. You deserve success." As he walked away, I felt something I hadn't expected: closure. Not satisfaction or revenge, but simply the completion of a chapter that had defined my professional life for too long. We're in the final stretch of this incredible story, and I hope you're as satisfied with this outcome as I am. If workplace justice stories like this inspire you, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more empowering content like this. 2 years after leaving Sterling & Associates, I received an invitation that brought everything full circle. The National Association of Marketing Professionals was giving me their Innovation in Strategic Development Award, recognizing the Authentic Moments campaign and its impact on industry best practices. The ceremony was held at the same hotel where Sterling & Associates used to host their annual client appreciation dinners. As I walked into the ballroom where I'd once served as Marcus's silent assistant, I marveled at how different everything felt. This time, I was the one on stage receiving recognition. This time, my name was on the presentation slides and the award certificate. This time, the applause was for work that was genuinely, indisputably mine. The Authentic Moments campaign, said the presenter, revolutionized how agencies approach emotional connectivity in strategic marketing. But more than that, Rachel Miller's advocacy for intellectual property rights and ethical practices in campaign development has elevated standards across our entire industry. As I accepted the award, I looked out at an audience filled with colleagues, competitors, and clients who knew my work and respected my contributions. In the back of the room, I spotted several former Sterling and Associates employees who had since moved on to better opportunities, inspired perhaps by seeing someone successfully stand up to workplace bullying and theft. "Thank you," I said into the microphone, my voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. This award represents more than recognition for a single campaign. It represents the importance of creating workplace cultures where original thinking is valued, where credit is given fairly, and where talented people can thrive regardless of their position in the corporate hierarchy. The applause was sustained and genuine. In that moment, I realized that my resignation letter had accomplished something far more significant than just exposing one person's misconduct. It had sparked conversations about intellectual property rights, workplace intimidation, and the importance of ethical leadership in creative industries. After the ceremony, I was approached by several young professionals who shared stories of their own workplace challenges. Some had dealt with credit theft, others with intimidation or discrimination. All of them wanted to know how I'd found the courage to take such a dramatic stand. "The secret," I told them, "isn't courage. It's documentation and preparation. Know your worth, document your contributions, and never accept that unfair treatment is just how business works. When you're ready to make a stand, make sure you have the evidence to back it up. But what if they retaliate? They probably will. But retaliation for reporting unethical behavior is illegal, and more importantly, it reveals their true character to everyone who matters. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your career is to leave a toxic situation before it destroys your confidence and your reputation." As I drove home that night, the award sitting on my passenger seat, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The scared junior strategist who'd once desperately craved Marcus Sterling's approval was gone, replaced by someone who understood that true professional success came from integrity, not politics. My phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from colleagues, clients, and industry contacts. Morrison and Blake had posted about the award on social media, generating hundreds of likes and comments celebrating the recognition. But the message that meant the most came from Jenny Martinez, the copywriter who'd been one of Marcus's other victims. "Watching you stand up to him gave me the courage to leave too. I'm now creative director at Thompson & Associates, and I make sure every junior team member knows their ideas are valued and protected. Thank you for showing us that we don't have to accept unethical treatment just because it's coming from someone in power." That's when I realized the true impact of my resignation letter. It wasn't just about exposing one person's misconduct or advancing my own career. It was about changing the conversation around workplace ethics and inspiring other people to value themselves enough to demand better. The next morning, I arrived at my office to find a handwritten note slipped under my door. The handwriting was familiar, though I hadn't seen it in 2 years. "Rachel, I saw the news about your award. Congratulations, you deserve every bit of recognition you're receiving. I wanted you to know that I've been working with a therapist to understand why I made the choices I did. It doesn't excuse anything, but I'm learning about insecurity, entitlement, and the damage that comes from treating people as expendable resources rather than valuable colleagues. I'm not asking for forgiveness or friendship. I just wanted you to know that your courage in speaking up changed more than just your own life. It forced me to confront some hard truths about who I'd become and what I'd been doing to other people. I'm teaching now, business ethics at the community college. It's humbling work, but meaningful. I tell your story, with permission and anonymously, as an example of what happens when leaders prioritize ego over ethics. Thank you for holding me accountable when no one else would. Marcus. I read the note twice, then filed it away in my desk drawer. Not because I was ready to forgive or forget, but because it represented something important. Accountability and growth were possible, even for people who'd made terrible choices. What an incredible journey we've been on together. From workplace theft to strategic revenge to industry recognition, this story proves that standing up for yourself isn't just about personal justice, it's about changing toxic workplace cultures for everyone. If this story inspired you to value your own worth and stand up against workplace injustice, please give this video a massive thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Your support helps us reach more people with these empowering stories. Drop a comment telling us about a time you had to stand up for yourself at work, or share this with a friend who's dealing with a toxic boss right now. Remember, you have more power than you think, and sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming the person you were always meant to be. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories about workplace justice, personal empowerment, and the satisfaction that comes from refusing to accept unfair treatment. Until next time, remember that your ideas have value, your contributions matter, and you never have to accept being treated as disposable. Keep fighting for your worth, keep standing up for what's right, and never let anyone convince you that toxic behavior is just how business works. The best careers are built on integrity, not politics, and this story proves it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.